So I did get a request from Google for a speaking engagement at a really high level, like 300-person sales and leadership team. And, I want to write a book because everyone's like, holy shit, your truths are really good. Can you write a book? So I'm already in process of a book proposal. And then I want to start a podcast. And I think like the podcast, like getting sponsorship money is like where I should be. My ultimate goal is, like I said, I left Korn Ferry and I just took a huge job at ZRG Partners, which is a private talent firm. It's like number 7 in the world, whatever. So I'm going to run a really big practice. But my goal is if I get big enough, like social media wise and like the recognition, I'll bring business into the firm by notoriety, but like not have to do the day to day because I have a really great team. But my ultimate goal is to fucking get a big podcast deal. Right? Like, I feel like I could really do that based on what's going on in the environment, based on what everybody wants to know about, with the credibility that I'm building, all of that stuff. So I'm willing to be patient, I'm willing to like keep growing the audience. And I feel like right now my newsletter has grown to on Beehive 5,500, like out of nowhere. Like I'm getting 200-300 people signing up a day. It's insane. I've never experienced anything. So I'm totally new to this. So this is all like, you've seen it before, but I've never seen this before. So I'm like, this many people want to hear from me. This is fucking crazy. Like it's just wild.
You'll be surprised that like, it's just going to get better. Honestly, like I know it feels a bit weird when you're at the restaurant and like someone's coming up to you, but you don't realize that one little interaction is enabling for you to have so many more opportunities moving forward. The fact that you're able to build a community of people who value you and trust you just means that big brands want to work with you, all these big celebs, like anyone high profile wants to work with you, etc. So I just wanted to do this quick interview just to get a feel of your experience so far in working with Simlex Media and the team and kind of what the results have been and also kind of any doubts that you had prior to even coming on board.
I would say first and foremost, I think it's been a great experience. I feel like I have an entire team. Right? There's a lot of people straight from onboarding that came on, spoke to me at length, strategy, what we're going to do. And being new to this, I barely had 10,000 followers on Instagram. I think I was sub 10,000 followers on Instagram. And you guys proposed a strategy, which I was like, are you sure? And then I just basically closed my eyes and said, you know what? I'm just going to go with it. Like, I'm sure they know what they're doing. I think it's only been like 3-4 months and I'm at 161,000 followers. So I felt like 0 to 100. And there were parts of it where you guys pushed back on me saying, try not to do this and don't do this or don't add this. And it was hard for me because I'm so alpha and I kind of know what I want to do, like just trusting you with you guys knowing your business. And so I thought that it's been a really good partnership. I love the fact that you guys push back on me because it gives me some insight as to, things that we should pace out at a different time or whatever it is. So overall, I've just had such a great experience. And, the other thing is the learnings, right? Like I was already kind of taking off on TikTok, 0 experience on Instagram, which you were really invaluable on that side because the audiences are kind of different, but the engagement is really high on Instagram. And so I'm just kind of like managing both. And there's like a nuance in personas and then a whole different persona on LinkedIn. So you guys have been able to manage that as well.
What advice would you give to someone at the beginning when they're considering, should they hire a team? Should they learn it themselves? Should they even like invest in either of those? What advice would you give them?
This is so easy because I am one of those people that tried to do it myself and it wasn't happening. Meaning, it took off on one platform and not the other. And I have no doubts. If you're thinking about doing it yourself, okay, go for it. But I think it was honestly game changing to hire a team. And the thing is I can reconcile it from even like a pricing perspective. I'm like, okay, for this, the amount of time that I'm spending, the amount of research that you guys are doing, like, hey, these are the hooks, these are the topics, this is what, that's a lot of time. So if I think about like time well spent, time invested versus having the team kind of, start doing that and you doing it on a rolling basis, super no brainer. Yes, you can do it yourself. If you have all the time in the world, go for it. But this really feels like, everybody's kind of working for you, like getting the videos on the analytics and all of that stuff. And you're analyzing it for me and you're changing direction. It's a lot on one person to do it yourself.
So you just found that by offloading it to a team of experts, you freed up your own time and you've actually seen better results from it.
1,000%. No
And
doubt.
what would you advise to beginning clients? So clients who've just come on board with us, they're kind of going through the onboarding process. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I think the advice is be really open to direction, even though you kind of know what you want to do or where you want to go. I think getting some early advice on topics and strategies. When you guys told me about go and do this B-roll, I'm like, this is weird. Like no. And when I did it, and then when it came out, and then one B-roll did really well, I'm like, what? Okay, I guess I'm doing B-roll now,
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's just when you're early on, kind of close your eyes and be trusting of what you guys know to do that works well, and be really open to strategy, even though you have some sort of definition. But the other part of it is like, I knew who I was and I was able to tell you that, or tell your team that. And so formulating a strategy and plan about who I am and how to like lean into it was also really good. I just think open mind, trust the things that you guys do well, have an opinion on where you want to go. And I think you will come at a crossroads of like how to do it together.
Yeah. A lot of clients sometimes fear like, will my messaging be lost by hiring a team?
Yeah.
Right.
Not at all. I don't feel like my message. In fact, I feel like you guys have strengthened my message. Now, I will say, like, there are things that went super viral on TikTok because I knew what I wanted to say. And your team was like, we're going to take what you said there. We're going to repackage it. We're not going to change a lot, but we're going to repackage it. And it blew up on Instagram in a different way. So that was really cool because I knew I had this intuition about what I wanted to do there. And then, Jade was like, yeah, let's cut it down to 5. And we think it's going to do really well on Instagram. And it did. It hit like 2.3 million views, like immediately. But the message is not lost,
And this is something I say to a lot of people. I'm always like, look, like you may have incredible wisdom to share with the world, but you just need to package it in a way that's digestible for the world to
totally. And that's the one thing that I will say is like forcing me to dwindle down my message into 90-second to 3-minute clips was very hard for me, but it was obviously seeing the results of how the attention is on these platforms and what we really have to do. And, when you look at the average watch time and things like that, it makes sense. Like no one's gonna, unless you have a different sort of attack of like podcast or whatever, long form, that's a totally different animal. But for my intents and purposes, it was the right thing to do.
Before you came to us, was there any hesitation that you had, even during like when you were speaking to us, or even when you were looking for the right partner? Was there any hesitations that you typically that you had before?
Totally. 2 things actually. So I was constantly getting bombarded by people, different agencies and like, hey, work with us. We have a videographer, whatever. And I just didn't know like the social proof of what they had done and like, could I really invest with them? And then the other thing was just cost. Like, is this going to be worth it? Am I going to get ROI on my investment? Right. And I think several people had referred you to me. Like everything, when you're engaging with someone, you have to kind of feel it. So we had that initial conversation. You didn't try to sell me so hard, but there was a lot of social proof into the wins that you had. You showed me all of these people that you had been working with, which gave me some level of comfort. You always go in with doubt. You never know how the relationship is going to be, because I've worked with many others that have taken a lot of my money and didn't serve any results. So there's always apprehension, but I felt like you were really kind about like negotiating not about the money, but negotiating in my mind, like what was going to work and what wasn't, and what realistically you could do, right? Like when I said, I want 100,000 followers, you guys were like, okay, our goal is going to be a little bit less than that, but you'll see that it will get to where you want to go. And so when I told Jade, I'm like, I want 50,000 followers by the end of December. She's like, we're going to try, like no unrealistic expectations. Yeah. And then we blew past that number and didn't ever look back.
From an entrepreneurial standpoint, you don't start $1 million business by saying, I'm going to make $1 million in 3 months. You start $1 million business by saying, give me 2 years to make this happen. And then you work accordingly, and it can happen in 3 months,
Yeah.
So we kind of adopt that philosophy, and it works really, really well for our clients. Kind of the process. Otherwise, you can't lay the right foundations, and you need to lay the right foundations. I want to talk a little bit about the results that you've been seeing since now. Obviously, you've been growing tons of leads. Give like a snapshot of the kind of results that you've been seeing.
Yeah, I would say that my newsletter went from 0 to thousands. So that and like owning a proper audience was unbelievable. And the amount of daily signups that I get is unreal. Embarrassment of riches is getting recognized in restaurants and shopping centers. So when you see the numbers, you're like, okay, 100,000 or 200,000 followers. That's a lot. Yes, I get it. But what's not sinking in is the fact that it's, millions of views, right? So even if they're not following me, the non-followers that are seeing the content. So yeah, I mean, the results speak for themselves. I'm in public and someone comes up to me and says, I love your content. And it's just wild. And I would say one more ROI is that big brands have come to me for speaking engagements because my truthful message is resonating with them at a leadership level. And for them to come and say, hey, we love how you deliver the message. Come and talk to our team. So that's a different angle that I did not expect, but it happened.
What about kind of like your direct kind of coaching signups? You mentioned you're getting
consistently every week, multiple a week. Consistent.
And that's just because we're constantly generating views, turning into inbound leads, which are then signing up.
Yeah.
And for people who don't have a funnel established, what would you advise to them? Because you came to us with your own funnel. You just needed more traffic to basically.
I would say that I wasn't even like that sophisticated of a funnel. But if you're just starting out and if you're in a space and place where you're delivering services or whatever, your team and I talked through like Linktree and whatever tools just to like point people in the right direction. So from a funnel perspective, if you just have like these really like low cost tools that lead you to somewhere. I'm literally using Calendly for people to sign up. So it's not bad. We're getting more sophisticated now over time in terms of like the funnel and like where I can have my audience and what I need to do with them and, newsletter and getting up there in the tools. But if you're not as sophisticated in your funnel, don't worry about it. I think you guys have given the right suggestions as to where to lead people to, and then you can convert over time.
What about from a lead magnet standpoint? What advice would you give to anyone?
Oh yeah. So I kept changing the words and I just, all of that stuff. Oh, my big thing was like, I didn't want to be promotional in my videos. Like I didn't want to be like, oh, comment Zoom or comment, whatever. And it just ended up becoming more natural. But yes, we basically defined like the words. We used ManyChat, and that's just, today I got a note, 237 signups on my newsletter from yesterday. But we used ManyChat. The leads were there. People are like, they're getting it in their inbox. They're signing up. And I got them now.
You can sell them whatever you want. You can promote whatever you want, which is amazing.
Exactly. That's TBD. We'll see what I want to do there.
Final question would just be, what's the one value or trait that you've most appreciated about Simplex Media versus any other company that you've kind of worked with in this space or outside of this space?
Your communication methodology. We're on Slack. I get consistent updates and responses in an insanely short amount of time. So like you guys bring me stuff, but if I post something in Slack as a client, always less than 24 hours, but like in case it's like a Sunday or whatever, it's 24 hours. So I would say your white glove concierge level service from a communication standpoint, I would say I've never had a better experience.
Amazing. Sweet.
So, good job, Cash, on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
No, I'm glad that I'm taking the ride with you and vice versa. No, dude, I spent a lot of money with like these fucking clowns in California, and I don't mind spending the money. I just want to know that like it yields something.
Yeah.
At Corn Ferry, we had a podcast producer, and like there's a lot of boring people, right? And so like when Corn Ferry does their podcast, like when I came on, the views were off the charts. It's just you either have it or you don't. Like you either have the personality for it or you don't. The other thing is the consistency, right? Like, some people just kind of give up. Like, when you guys told me like, look past the 3 months, I thought that was a really important point. Seeing it from 0 to 3 is not enough time. And when you guys said give it 6 months, I'm like, oh, here we go again. Because in my mind, I'm just like, okay, my bills are going to be this much in 6 months. But, at some point you got to trust somebody.